welcome back to another episode of Mike's Mini Motors. So today we're going to be showing the Kandi go-kart some more love. I'm going to start off with doing the exhaust. The stock exhaust that was on the old motor didn't line up, and the flange here is actually clocked just enough to not work, unfortunately. So what my plan is, I'm going to cut the flange off, bolt it back onto the motor, and kind of mock this up there, give it a couple of tack welds, pull it out, weld it up, and then this exhaust should be usable again, at least I'm hoping. And then see if that one is going to quiet it down, because right now we just got an open header on there. And two, see if maybe that makes it run a little better. When we test drove it after getting the swap in here, it was a little rough, kind of spitting and sputtering. It could just be a new motor, I need to kind of work through it or not. I kind of doubt that, but so I might, if the exhaust doesn't fix it, then I'll start looking at like maybe the carburetor, if it needs to be cleaned or something. And I've got spare GY6 carburetors over here. I can swap it if I need to. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna get this thing up in the air. I'm gonna cut that flange off, and then we start mocking things up. All right, so I crawled under here and kind of mocked up this exhaust a little bit onto the mounting point. And you can see here, it's supposed to slide on those two studs, but I could get one kind of lined up, so I'm doing this one-handed. But the other one's off by 10 degrees or something like that. So that's why, let's see if I can hold this a little better. I'm going to cut the flange off and bolt it to these studs. And then I'll mock this, actually mount this exhaust on its other mounting point and then tack weld it in. So lucky for me, this flange, the welds that were on there are hideous. So me re-welding it, at least my welds won't look as bad. I'm wondering if this has been redone in the past. It doesn't, it's not that great a weld, but it doesn't look like it's newer. Okay, so modifying this stock exhaust, you can see I got the flange cut off. That'll get bolted on the motor next. But first, I gotta fix this exhaust too. The rear hanger here, this piece of metal had snapped off. Luckily, it was still stuck in the little mount here that goes on the Kickstarter. So I'm gonna get that tacked on and welded so that it'll actually mount again. And then once I can mount that onto that kickstand mount, I can then get this bolted up and this up to it and tack weld it in. There, we got the tab all re-welded. Turned out fairly decent. One side and the other side cleaned up really nice too. So let's get this bolted on and mocked up. So the flange is now welded on there. Tried to clean it up a little bit. It's not very easy to get into those spots, but cleaned up a bit. One other thing is this actually was, I had to push it back a little bit to actually line up right. So I bent this brace here, but when it barely touched it, this whole part of the brace just broke out of the muffler. So I had to get it straightened back on there and re-weld it up. And I will paint it here in shortly, but I want to test fit it first and make sure everything's good. Make sure there's no leaks, and so that's where we're at. We'll get it bolted up and start this thing up. Okay, so I've had this thing hooked up to the battery charger for a little while just because I haven't ran it, so I assumed it was dead. So let's go ahead and start it up and see how she sounds. So she's much quieter again with this muffler back on here compared to what was on there. That was just this guy, just an open header that came on the Frankentrike that I wasn't going to use, so I put something on it to have something. So yeah, it sounds much quieter. It seems like it was running decent, so I'm going to get that exhaust pulled back off, get it painted up, then I can put it back on once it dries, and then start to take her for a drive and see if she runs good or if I got to do some more tinkering. So here's the exhaust all painted and put on there. Clean up the chrome piece a little bit. I may not leave that on there. It's actually hitting the frame here, and if it vibrates or whatever, I'll end up just taking it off. So we're going to take her out for a spin now and See how she drives. I just got back from test driving this thing and it's running much nicer than it was before. I don't know if maybe without an actual exhaust, it's just open header, maybe needed back pressure, that's why it was running kind of weird. I'm trying to remember if I changed the fuel out in the tank. It could be old fuel or something, but it ran pretty good. Wasn't as fast as I was hoping, but it still drove pretty good. And now the only thing I got left to do for now is I'm going to put the fenders. I got fenders for front and rear, and then yeah, just in time for this Labor Day weekend, we're going to take her down to the river and drive her around and stuff. And it will be cow pie territory, so that's why I want to make sure to get them fenders on there. I don't want to get covered in crap. So yeah, I'll get those fenders put on and show you guys what that looks like right before signing off. Got the fenders on, as you can see. There's the fronts, the rears. Same thing on this side, there's the rear and the front. They look a little odd, but hey, they should keep the mud and cow pies off of us. So I also went through and did a nut check. These GY6 motors vibrate a lot, and so it's a good idea to just check the nuts every once in a while, make sure that everything's tight. It was vibrating a pretty good amount when I was driving it, so hopefully that'll reduce a bunch of that. But yeah, it's ready to rock. I just got to load it in the truck and we're gonna take it down to the river and play around. It's really dirty right now. I want to wash it, but since we're taking it to go get even dirtier, I'm not even gonna worry about it for now. So all right, yeah, so let's get to the river.